A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Adore India. I'm Sanjalin, volunteer for Adore India. We have with us here Dr. Puneet Sindhwani from Ohio to talk about his life and journey to becoming a urologist in the United States as part of a global Indian program. A brief introduction about him. Dr. Puneet Sindhwani is a urologist residing in Ohio. He graduated from Government Medical College, Patiala, India, and pursued his chief residency from Medical College of Ohio. He is a practicing doctor, as well as a professor in the Department of Urology at the University of Toledo, Ohio. He is currently the chairman and Kenneth Kropp Endowed Professor of Urology at the University of Toledo College of Medicine. He has held several administrative responsibilities at different institutions from the year 2001 and still holds them. He holds several medical certifications in his domain and its related domains. He holds a license to practice medicine at Ohio and Oklahoma. The list of awards Dr. Puneet has received is long, and to mention some: Best Doctor Award in 2016, Silver Medal Award for Transplant Program in 2012, and many more. He is a member of several committees to help with the management and medical decisions. He is also a member of several medical societies. Dr. Puneet has rich experience in research owing to the clinical trials he has conducted, being the member of the journal and grant review panel, and various research presentations at conferences and lectures. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting to talk for Adore India. We look forward to learning important life skills and survival skills from your talk. Over to you, sir.
Introduction. First of all, I want to thank Adore India. I want to thank its organizers. I want to thank Aisha for giving me this contact and putting me in touch with Adore India. Off the bat, when I heard the concept, I was totally blown away. You guys are doing a great job of putting global India on the map. And I can't be any prouder of being Indian and representing globally what I stand for. So it's a lot of burden on your shoulder when you are representing not only yourself, your profession. In addition, you end up representing your country, your culture, your people. So whatever you do is magnified multiple times. So you have to do it very responsibly, to say the least. So when we talked, I was asked to give a brief journey of how I reached where I'm at right now. And in addition, to focus a little bit on my profession, what I do. As Sanjalin told you, that I am a urologist, and my area of specialty and focus of work is in kidney transplantation. So I have divided my talk into two parts. Serendipity is that the transplantation by itself means taking something from one place and then making it a new home to the second place, whether it's an organ you take from a body and you transplant from one person to another, or it could be a plant that you transplant from the rice paddy fields from where it starts its journey while it's sprouting into the final field where it's going to grow. So that's where the term comes from, transplant, when the plants are moved from one field to another. But, people can be transplanted too. So this talk was divided into two parts. It's called Transplanting Self, a Journey of a Transplant Surgeon. So I want to start with some of my personal experiences. First thought is that how do you decide that you want to go abroad or you want to pursue a dream? So all of us go through at some stage in our life when we want to have to make a decision as to what you want to do next. And in that decision process, there are multiple factors. In my opinion, first you come to know about the thing. How do you get exposed to what you want to do? Then that exposure, then you collect information behind it, what you know. There are some known factors and there are some unknown factors. And many times these are the unknown factors which you're not aware of that's going to go into decision making that may play a big role in the outcome of what you're going to end up doing and where you're going to end up in life. So information collection is an integral part at that point. You can go to print media, you can go to electronic media. These days, there's no dearth of information. So you have to go to the right sources at that point. Make sure that your sources are authenticated, that your information does not have a biased slant coming from somebody. So make sure before decision making, when you're collecting your information, it's coming from the sources that are organic, that are earth grown. What do I mean by that? I mean that somebody who has gone through the journey. I'm reminded of Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, if I'm quoting it correctly. There was a poem when I was in school. अनगिनत राही गए इस राह पर उनका पता क्या, पर फिर कुछ छोड़ गए अपने पैरों की निशानी. ये निशानी मूक होकर भी बहुत कुछ बोलती है. Something. देख इनका अर्थ पंथी पंथ की पहचान कर ले. Yes. पूर्व चलने से बटोही बाट की पहचान कर ले. So before you start walking on a path, know your path. That's what it's saying. And many people might have walked that path. Look at their footprints. What did they tell you? So that's part of information collection. So talking to people like me who have treaded this path, learning from their experience, that's a great initiative. I'm very, very happy to know that there's an organization that's doing all that and trying to learn from people who have treaded that path, and now you are going to walk on that path. So once you collected your information from media, from experiences, and also experience can be your own self-experiences. Remember, whatever information comes through a filter of who we are. If you go with the friends, you watch the same event, same movie, people come up with different things because it's our filter, which is our information that we have collected in the past that puts imprints, let some things come in and some other things might not come in. So that also is your self experience that tells you where you want to go, what you want to do. And after you've collected all the information, then it starts time to make a decision. For that, you have to see, what do I have to put in to get what out of your life that you want from it? So what is the ultimate outcome you're looking for in life? Everybody has different outcome to look for. In some people, it could be, you're looking for better lifestyle, you're looking for better social values, you're looking for better social setup, you might be looking for more money, you might be looking for fame, you want to be at the top of your career pathway wherever you are. You want to reach a height where you're known, or you want to contribute to the humanity per se. You want to do something good for the people. So you need to know what is your inner drive. What is the end point in the game you're looking for? So having said all that, now I'll try to recount my journey, how it all happened. There's a word in English called serendipity. I don't know if you've heard of it. Serendipity, believe it or not, it comes from an old Sanskrit word called Swarandip. So there's a old parable in which there's this prince who goes on expedition to Swarandip, where there's a land of bounty, there are people, there are princesses, and so he fights through different battles, and everything happens by chance. It just comes in his lap, he makes best use of it, and that's his journey. So from that famous story of Swarandip, the word in English comes as serendipity. So serendipity was, in my journey, my roommate in medical school, his mother was going from one city to another. And during the travel, she contracted some bug in the intestine, which made her throw up quite a bit, and she had upset stomach. So end result was, by the time the train started from Delhi, and by the time it reached Bikaner, she had lost so much fluid that she became dehydrated and her kidneys shut down. We were together at that time, and when the kidneys fail, as a medical student, you don't know much. So I started educating myself. What is it? What do we need to do next? And we looked at the options. We found out there's something called kidney transplant, and looking at kidney transplant, what are the options? And this was in 80s, and there were not many centers in India that were doing kidney transplant at that time. There were very few regional centers. So that's how my first exposure started, totally serendipitously, helping my friend, whom I was very close to, trying to take care of his mom, who was like our own family member. And during that time, you figure out, what needs to be done next. What is a fistula formation? What is it that you need to do to help somebody who's in kidney failure? Why are resources so limited in different parts of the country? What can you do to improve the care of a kidney failure patient? So that was my exposure to kidney transplant first time. And I liked surgical rotations a lot. I always liked to work with my hands. So when I went to med school, my decision was, do I want to do a medicine specialty or do I want to do a surgical specialty? I ended up choosing a surgical specialty because I liked to work and do something to my patient to help them. And also many times surgery gives you more instantaneous results as compared to medication, where you can be having the patient on medicines for years before you could see any advantage, or you may be doing hit and trial. Let's try this medicine, let's try this medicine. So it suited my personality more to do things with my hands, so I became a surgeon. I did my general surgery from back home, from Patiala, where I trained. And I was thinking of doing urology after that, because to go into kidney transplant in urology, you have to be a urologist first. So surgery, then you have to do general surgery, then you have to do urology, and then after urology, you go into kidney transplant. So that was the pathway at that time. Now the pathway might be different. So that was my journey to the next step was to get into urology. I started looking for programs that were actually run by urology, where kidney transplant was part of the training. That's what brought me to my search. My initial thought was to do urology in UK. And then I talked to a senior of mine, just like we talked about decision making, you need more information. So I spoke to this person who was an orthopedic surgeon, and he had been in UK for almost 2 years. And so I spoke with him. I said, this is what I want to do. I want to come and take my exams in UK exams, and then I want to do urology training so I can get into kidney transplant. So once again, looking at the experience, he was very forthright. He told me very upfront and directly that, listen, if you want to go into kidney transplant, if you want to have a state-of-the-art training, UK may not be the best place at this point in time to come for training. Why don't you try to go to USA at that time? Because most of the advancements that were happening at that time were in US medical field. So he's the one who directed me. I talked to other people, and then it just so happened there was a family emergency, and made me end up in a circumstance where I was exposed to US medical system. And once I actually saw the US medical care myself, I was blown away. It was, at that time in 80s, it was head and shoulders above what we had been trained as medical students, as residents, where I was training at. The resources were bountiful. The true research was going on, which really captured my imagination. And at that point, I thought, okay, if this is the case, this is where I want to be. I want to train with the best of the best. And I started preparing. Believe it or not, although I had done my medical education, I had done my post-graduation in surgery, I approached this at that time as if I'm starting from scratch. This was an opportunity for me to not only cram, but I fell in love with the art of medicine. I educated myself in the fields that I never thought will be important to me during practice, like basic sciences. Everything was coming together, and I invested all my time at that point to go back to basics and become a better physician, better informed physician. And that's how I did very well in my exams. Not that there were not many hurdles on the way. Many people were dissuading me, distinctly, there are 2 or 3 episodes that left me heartbroken. One of the persons I approached initially that I want to do urology, they just wrote me off. They said, international medical graduate, surgical specialty, there's no way you can get in. Just give up your dream, give up your hope, and call it quits. I was disheartened. At this point, whenever you are in that kind of bind, your support system becomes important. And I had, luckily, my support system. And I was talking to my sister this episode, and she kept encouraging me. She said, no, just disregard that. You just put your head down, things happen. This is land of opportunity. They will value merit over nationality. So you just have to prove yourself. Then certain other episodes happened which were disappointing, but along the way, I just kept my focus that what I wanted to do, and I was very upfront about it. I didn't make any qualms. I remember approaching the chairman of the Department of Urology, which is the head of the department, just out of the blue, and telling him, hey, I'm very interested in going to urology. These are my credentials. I know internationally it's very hard to get for an international graduate to get into urology, but if you could guide me, if you could help me, I'll do anything and everything that you ask of me. I'll do that. He said, okay, you come and rotate with us, we'll see how things go. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. And that was my in. Once I got the in, I had the drive, I had the knowledge to back my claims up, why I wanted to do what I wanted to do. It was not a hollow claim. So I ended up doing some patient care, and he was very impressed. He saw that this person is dedicated, and he gave me a chance. And then after that, that was my journey into urology. And then during that time, I had extra training in kidney transplantation. And then I dedicated the rest of my professional career, not only in kidney transplant, but also some related factors that go in kidney transplant. Patients who have kidney failure, they have some unique issues. Their electrolytes are out of balance. Poisons start building in their system. So how to take care of them, how to keep them healthy enough, long enough, so that their kidneys they become candidates for kidney transplantation. Because if you are on dialysis, which is an artificial filtration mechanism in which you purify blood and put it back into the patient, it's only partly effective. There are some chemicals or compounds which are not removed by dialysis also. They start building in your body and it starts breaking down the tissue. So patients don't do very well on dialysis for too long. So that brought me to the realization that these patients have to be looked after very carefully during this wait period when they're trying to get to the transplantation part. So started to be very diligent. I was taking care of some little kids. I had an expertise in pediatric transplantation, which means transplantation in children. Luckily, I got the opportunity to, at the Children's Hospital of Oklahoma, I became the director of the pediatric renal transplant, and we took care of all the sick kids who were coming from the area, around the area, states, all the states around Oklahoma, to come and get transplant at our center. And we had very good success rates because we were paying attention to detail. I remember one of my mentors telling me, it's what sets a good surgeon or a good doctor, or for that matter, any good professional, apart from other people, is not knowledge. It's attention to detail. You have to be meticulous in what you're doing. You have to think through possibilities. Don't commit yourself to a diagnosis or whatever line of field you're going into. Don't have a tunnel vision. Keep your mind open. Small piece of information from a patient that might be mentioned offhandedly may carry a lot of weightage in taking care of that patient's disease. Don't ignore things. How do you do that? How can you not ignore things? The key to that is to be in the moment, right when you're doing a thing. Be committed to that patient when it's sitting in front of you, or whatever in life that you're planning to do. If you're planning to do you, engineering, if you're designing something, at that moment, the thought should be, this is the task at hand. How am I going to do it to the best of my capability? Invest in it. At that time, there should be no other thought. 100% laser-like focus. What is laser? Laser is nothing but light that's amplified, and it's in a parallel beam, and you're focusing it through a crystal, and you enhance its capabilities 10 times, 100 times as compared to common light. It's like having a sunlight focus through a lens, and you can burn a paper, right? So same thing. When you use your concentration, when you use your intellectual, mental faculties, put them in place right there and then in that moment. What is going on? You should not have the fear of future failures that can hinder your performance. At that time, there should be a wall. This is a task assigned. This is what I have to do to the best of my capabilities. Not as to, I have to do that too. It's okay to multitask, but not at the cost of task at hand. Because then you have 10 botched up things rather than doing one thing properly. So keeping that focus, paying attention to details that are coming through, and then being thankful. I think the last part which I really want to impress is that many times things may not go according to plan. And if that happens, make sure you have a plan B. And whatever comes your way, take it and be thankful for what you got. Because this is something that's given to you, and you reach this point after you have given 100% your effort. I remember one NBA game. It was a very well contested game, and the players came out, and the interviewer asked the star player of the team as to, oh, it's a tough loss in championship game. I'm sure you're feeling sad about it, or something like that. But what I remember is the guy's response. He said, the game is over. I gave it my 100%. I left everything on the court. I don't have any regrets. I did whatever I had to. I know I gave it my best. So the outcome is somebody had to win. And today it was the opposition that won. What a great mindset. If we take that mindset in every field of our life, hey, I did my best. And you have to know that you did your best. Not just for the sake of saying I did my best. Because it's very easy to lie to your own self. Because there's no monitoring. And it is hardest to lie to yourself, because your inside, your soul knows at that time that you're lying. You may cover it up with many layers, but you know. So this person, with the confidence with which he said, I gave it my 100%, and this is what I did, and let the outcome be what it is. So do that in life. And I have believed in that I always gave it my 100%. And that's true for our relationships also in life. When you put in an effort, many times there are going to be some aspects that may not reach the other person, that may not reach the field of your profession on the other side, because of some attrition that happens, that some attenuation that happens. And when that happens, your 100% may end up being only 80% in the end result. So go extra mile at that time. If it's required of me to work 8 hours, and I put an extra hour after that, I have given my 125%. So as an transplanted surgeon, going into a new society, going into a new setup, you have to prove yourself twice over. It's not easy. Remember when we were little kids and you will read some old stories, and in those stories, if somebody committed a very serious crime, the emperor will banish them from the country. In Hindi, it was called Desh Nikala, right? And as a kid, I used to think, this is not a punishment. This is awesome. You get to see a new country, you go to a new culture. How could that be a punishment? But trust me, that's a big price to pay when you migrate, because you're leaving a set of values, you're leaving a set of social input that you grew up with, that gave you your roots. And now you have to go to a new field where you're going to put this transplant. That soil is going to have different minerals. That soil is going to have different nourishments, or even toxins. And you now have to establish new roots. And these roots may not go as deep as your as your roots back home where you grew up, because those roots probably went with your ancestral connections. You knew somebody through your father, you knew somebody from your grandfather. Here you are it. You have to make your new connections. You have to come up with your friends, you have to circle, you have to come up with your relatives who are going to be supporting you if they're around. Like-minded people, more importantly, people who hold the right values, the same values that you hold. And the sample size is so small that you have to look at all these things while you're struggling to balance your professional career. So that's a big price to pay. I was asked to talk about my personal gains and my personal struggles when I went through it. So apart from the professional side, there's a personal side that you pay price for. There's so many of my cousins, we grew up together. You would have never thought that you're going to miss their weddings. You're going to miss, some of the important milestones in their life. My nephews, my nieces, they were getting married. You cannot come because you are a resident, you're training, or your job duties require you to be there. You work extra long hours. You put in blood and sweat into your heart and hard work. So that's a personal price to pay. While my friends were enjoying life, right, I had to almost do the training a second time. So there's postponement of that gratification. So ultimately, you have to look for deep inside, I'm doing all this for what reason? What am I trying to achieve? And that reason better be good enough to make all these sacrifices, so that you don't repent at the end of the journey that what you put into the journey did not match the outcome, what you're looking for. So we have to be very clear. As young people, you have to be very clear. Define your happiness. Know at the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed, it's not going to matter how much money you have. It's not going to matter whether you're dying on a bed or on the floor. It's not going to matter whether you have 20,000 houses and properties. No, it's not going to matter. Ultimately, it's going to matter how many moments in your life you were truly happy. So seek that happiness. That happiness may come from inside. And if it comes from inside, that is the true happiness. If it comes from outside factors, that may change. So be careful. What may give you happiness at age 10 when you got a new video game may not give you happiness at age 15 when you made a new friend. It may not give you happiness at age 25 when you got a new car. Right? So if the happiness is coming from outside, be careful. That is a fleeting, momentary happiness that's not going to last. You will know very quickly. I'm sure you're such smart kids and you have so much exposure. You already have come to this realization that this is not what you should be putting your life, energy, resources, time into. This should be a perk. Yes, you need these things, but that's not the end game. These are the side benefits that may come along during your journey. But keep the end goal in your vision. Do you want to help humanity? what is it that you do that gives you true happiness? So for that, you have to start inward journey. The sooner you start, the sooner you get in touch with your true self. Who is it that speaks through me? Who is it that makes me think? And when I interact with somebody, what is it that makes me say certain things? The more you know yourself, the more you're connected to yourself, the easier it will be to define happiness. So ultimately, when you're making these decisions, you may have to continue this inward journey along with the outward journey. Don't get so caught up in the outward journey that you forget who you truly are. So balance this. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important. You need that buffer in the bank. When you're in lockdown, do you have enough resources to support your family? Have you worked hard enough, right? It's not that you're not going to worry about those things. When those things are out of the way, when you have enough of those resources, at that time, simultaneously invest in your own self. So
Talk. It was inspiring. Not just inspiring, you stress on the qualities that each of us need to have in our life through your journey, which is really was amazing. I did take down some points, and I would like to follow them. And also, you stress the reason the or you also stress that we need a reason to achieve in our lives. And that achievement happens only when we pay attention to details and when we are open to opportunity. Mm, then the next thing that I uh, liked a lot was that in both professional and personal life, knowing oneself and being happy is very important. Only when you know yourself, only when I know myself, I can be happy. And I understand that that is the key to real success in this world. And